started here. So those of us that are putting this on, we're part of the Donelson Hermitage Neighborhood Alliance. We like to help out around the community, do litter pickups, candidate forums, that kind of thing, and just try otherwise to connect people in the Donelson Hermitage community at large. So we're really pleased to put on this candidate forum for District 4. District 4 encompasses Old Hickory, Hermitage, and Donelson, and we've got school board elections every 4 years, and so we're now, it's election time again here. So we've got two candidates that are running for office, and I'll let them introduce themselves. We've got Dr. Berthena Nabaa-McKinney, and we've got Jenny Bell running in the Democratic primary. Early voting starts April 15th, I think, and then May 6th is the election date. What is it? May 5th is the election date. That's Cinco de Mayo, in case anybody was wondering. So you can go get a margarita and then vote for your school board member. That's right. So tonight we're going to do this. We've got about 12 questions, I think, that we think will span about an hour or so, maybe a little bit over. And we've got moderating for us tonight is Megan Garrison. Megan is a community organizer and a leader in the Davidson County Democratic Party. She's been here in Donelson Hermitage for a number of years, an MTSU graduate, and then in her spare time, she's a molecular scientist, and also works with the campaign management firm Bach Community Partners. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Megan. We once again appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and I'll turn it over to Megan to get going with their questions.
Thank you, Tyler. Just to confirm before we start, this is going to be a structured Q&A. Neither of you have seen these questions, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We're going to start with just an intro. You have a couple minutes just to tell us about your background, your connection to District 4 schools, and what led you to run for or continue serving in the school board. So we'll start with Berthena, and we'll alternate back and forth between each question.
Are we working? You guys can hear me? Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Oh, let's try that again. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is my teacher voice coming in. Thank you all for having me, and thank you, DHNA, for sponsoring this forum. My name is Dr. Berthena Nabaa-McKinney, and I'm proud to serve as your District 4 representative and the vice chair of the school board for Metro Nashville Public Schools. Which encompasses our Donelson Hermitage and Old Hickory community. So I am running for re-election to build upon the historic achievements that we have made over the last 4 years in District 4 and across MNPS. I deeply believe in the power of education and how it changes lives. I've also seen the results of when it doesn't. And so for me, it is extremely important that we are getting it right for kids across District 4 and across Nashville. My husband and I have raised our family right here in Hermitage, and most important, we have seen the power of education for our own kids. I'm the proud mom and guardian of 6 children, 5 who have graduated from Metro Nashville Public Schools, and I have a current 7th grader. And so through my work experience, my professional experience, and my educational experience, I'm pretty rooted in education, not only locally, but nationally as well. So that is why 4 years ago, I made the commitment to step up into this race for school board and put students first, as well as the teachers and staff, families, and community who ensure their success. And so part of that commitment to putting students first and everyone who helps to support them was based on 5 priorities that I had. 1 was fully funding our schools. 2 was investing in our teachers and support staff. 3 was improving academic outcomes. 4 was investing in social, emotional, and mental health and well-being for students and staff. And 5 was improving communications and increasing partnerships across our community. Thank you. Is it 30 seconds or 5? I thought they said 5 minutes.
We're doing
That's
5
what we were
minutes
saying.
per question.
Per question.
Oh, I think it was misleading.
I think it was misleading.
We were
It was
on the
sent to
same
us.
page.
Yes.
I would like to grant you some additional time.
Thank you.
We'll take 5 minutes for each of you to open, and
Sure.
then we'll take 5 minutes for each of the questions, so it'll be about 2 minutes each.
Perfect. And so with that commitment, I will say that I have not wavered away from that commitment or those priorities, as well as my dedication to our community and the schools in which we serve. So 4 years later, we're in 2026, and I'm proud to report the results that we have made under those 5 priorities. Thanks to our strong partnerships and relationships with our mayors and Metro Council over the past 4 years, we have had historic investments in funding for Metro Nashville Public Schools. We have prioritized compensation for our teachers and staff, as well as a comprehensive benefits package, earning us the distinction of being the highest paid teachers and staff in the state. We have also, around academic outcomes, have earned a level 5 distinction, which is the highest level assigned by the Tennessee Department of Education for academic growth in both reading and math and other subject areas across our district. So we're a level 5 district consecutively for the last 4 years since I have joined the board. We have also had the highest graduation rate on record within our schools, and nationally we have been recognized within the top 10 for post-pandemic academic recovery in both reading and math. So not only at the local level, at the state level, and at the national level, we have been recognized for the great work that we are doing to drive and improve outcomes here across our district. As far as social, emotional, and mental health, we have had major investments in advocacy centers and peace centers to help support and regulate students as they navigate hard feelings and transitions. We have put nurses in every school across our district. We invested in safety and security frameworks and infrastructure across all of our schools and continue to improve around those resources. Thank you. And so right here in District 4, we have seen those results even up close, where we have more and more level 5 and reward schools right here within our district. We have expanded upon our advanced academics by adding early college, where students can earn their associate degree and high school diploma at the same time at no cost to families. So I'm gonna close up because he gave me 30 seconds, but through my experience and through the work that we have done across the district, and we'll expand upon that as we continue to have these conversations, I am proud of the work that we are doing and want to continue to build upon that and advance and move the needle to support students across our district over the next 4 years. Thank you.
James?
I just didn't know if the camera might cut my head off if I stood up. I didn't know if it was tall enough.
I can see you right there.
Oh,
Good? Okay.
yeah, plenty. Yep. Yes, that's all.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out on this evening. It's a nice spring evening here in Nashville, so embrace it, relish in it. We'll have rain tomorrow. My name's Jenny Bell. It's got a nice little ring to it. I'm running here for School Board, District 4, Donelson Hermitage, and Old Hickory as well. And I have to tell you this. I genuinely believe that the future of our city is in the seats of our schools. And I've experienced this firsthand. So when I go to the bank and the bank manager is one of my former students, even the same person who notarized my wedding certificate, that means a lot. When the electrician who I'm trusting to wire my house appropriately is one of my former students, I'm trusting him a lot. When I think about the nurse that's in the delivery room as one of our Metro graduates, while my son is being born, I'm trusting them a lot. And so we have a lot of students who are really trusting on us to give them the best that we have to give them. And so I believe in giving our schools the very best that we have to offer. And I've lived this. I've lived every aspect of our schools. Whether it is a student, I graduated from McGavick High School, go Raiders, class of 99. You can put that together and figure out my age now. I taught in Metro. Glencliff High School at the time was the most diverse school in the state of Tennessee, and I'll talk a little bit more about that experience as time goes by. And then I was invited back to my own stomping grounds, and I served as the youngest principal at the time in the district as the academy principal of the Academy of Aviation and Transportation at McGavick High School. If you want to know what's interesting is when you're going in as a young administrator and you're evaluating your former teachers. but we did a lot of great work there. I went on to a district level, and I served as the Director of Extended Learning Programs for Metro Schools. I oversaw all the before school, after school, and summer programs throughout our district, as well as developing the largest summer program that you all know today is Promising Scholars. I also then went from there to become the Director of the Academies of Nashville, the high school redesign that started back in the early 2000s to transform high schools here in Nashville. So I've lived the work, but I'm going to tell you what really shaped my work. What shaped my work and the way that I lead and my passion for this work actually started in my first year of teaching. See, on Wednesday afternoons, I would cross down Antioch Pike and I'd go down Harding Place. And I'd go to the correctional facility, because that's where my brother was. My brother's incarcerated, I'm a young teacher, I'm working 2 jobs, I have 2 roommates to get by. And I'm visiting with him, and he's talking to me one day, and you never forget the smell if you've ever been in a jail or an incarcerated facility. And he says to me, how are things going? And I didn't feel like I had the right to complain because I wasn't incarcerated. But then he says to me, he says, hey, don't forget about the kids like me. And that resonated with me. See, our high school experiences, our schooling in totality was not the same. My brother really struggled. He had a hard time connecting with anyone. He had a lot of great strengths. He didn't know how to use them. I will go on today to tell you my brother runs 3 businesses. He just came back from a missions trip in El Salvador where he takes a group every year. I'm incredibly proud of him. But he helped me to reimagine what it looks like to be a leader. And I've seen impact through the work that I've helped lead, whether that was bringing a supper program to Metro schools, serving 3 meals a day to many of our students who needed that the most. As I mentioned earlier, whether that was developing Promising Scholars, which in its first year of implementation was aimed to serve 40,000 students. If you know what it's like to build a summer school for 40,000 students, it's like building a school system. And I was charged with doing it in 3 months. I helped bring work-based learning where students could earn wages while earning credit during the school day, working at some of our top businesses in trades that interested them and creating a pathway for them in a career. I've seen the work. I've expanded our pre-K before and after care programs, giving access to families who need it the most, as well as our students to extend on what they're learning during the school day. I helped McGavock High School to achieve a near perfect scoring national accreditation. I was identified, or I was recognized as being Academy Principal of the Year. I helped a school, the Academy of Aviation Transportation, become also recognized as the Academy of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce. So I've seen that work go into its impact. For me now, the role that I play is that of a mama. And I'm the parent of the 2 most beautiful children. My son is humble and kind. My child is wild. They're very different. And their experience is going to look very different when they get in school. My son started pre-K this year. He's over at Stanford Montessori. We're having an awesome experience. Well, as I've been going through this campaign, it's the first time I've done this. I know education inside and out. But when it comes to a campaign, I'm learning it. And I had a memory one time of a student, one day he's standing there, he's got a chair above his head, and I'm thinking he's going to throw this any second now. And he says to me, he says, you don't just get my respect, you have to earn it. And I remember putting my hands down the table and looked at him and I said, then let's earn it. And we chatted about something I don't recall. But a few months later, he got into an altercation with a student in the hallway, and I ran out to break it up. I fell down. I'm kind of small. I didn't think I had a great chance. Fell down. They looked at me, and he stops. He says, yo, stop. And he helped me up. And they stopped that altercation. And that's when I realized I earned this respect. And through this campaign, my goal has not been to go out and ask people to vote for me. It has been to earn their vote. And so I hope through this evening, you'll listen in, hear a little bit about my experience, what I'll have to bring to the table, and hopefully I can earn your vote.
Thank you. Okay, from here on out, we are going to do 2.5 minutes for each answer.
Yep.
Many people see the school board primarily through the lens of high-level policy or budget votes, but for the families here in District 4, the school board member is our most direct link to the school system. How do you define the role of representative? Is it your job to be a voice for the administration to the community, or a voice for the community to the administration? And how will you ensure that the specific concerns of Donelson Hermitage Jenny will alternate each question.
Awesome, thank you. So you kind of said it, but I'm going to expound about it a little bit. So what is the role of a school board member? We have 9 school board members here in Metro Schools. And if you don't know the deep history of it, our school board actually kind of came to the framework that it is back in the 1960s. So we've been working on this structure for about 80 years now. Within that structure, the role is that you have one employee. There are 9 school board members and they have one employee. And that employee is the superintendent. They hire and they evaluate and they support that one employee. The other one is that they evaluate and they make recommendations for the budget. So when we think about, for us as elected members of the school board who are serving the constituents of their community, you're serving everyone. And we have to remember that we are the employer of, not the employee to, our superintendent. That the people that we serve, the people that we need to answer to, it's everyone in our community. So when our community speaks, we are to elevate that voice. We are to make sure that that voice is heard, and that when our school district is setting the vision and its expectations for itself, that it's a reflection of the community that they live in. The best work I've ever seen done in our schools is when our schools carried the voice. When the voice came from the school level and they guided those decisions and they drove that work forward, not when it was the other way down from a top-down perspective. And so I believe that the work that we're going to do here to support District 4 and to better serve this community at large, it starts right here. I'm big on listening. I know what it's like not to be listened to. So I'm big on listening, and I also want to feel heard. And so my role is to make sure that everyone in this community not only is listened to, but feels heard, and that when I speak in my swivel chair on that board floor, that my voice is a reflection of yours. And that's my goal.
Berthena?
Can you repeat that question?
I sure can. How do you define the role of a representative? Is it your job to be a voice for the administration to the community, or a voice for the community to the administration? And how will you ensure the specific concerns of District 4 families are heard at the central office level?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's an important, question that we need to answer, and I believe it serves as both roles. Our role is to be a voice from the community to our superintendent, and from our superintendent to the community, to identify the goals and missions across our entire school district and how we align. So over the 4 years, when I started out on the school board, before I started out on the school board, I served as a McGavick cluster parent liaison for the school district. We had the Parent Advisory Council right here in the McGavick cluster that was comprised of families from every single school in our cluster. And so we were a voice of parents who talked and connected with our school district to share the concerns and things that we wanted from our cluster for our school district. So as a school board member, we carried that out. And as I told you earlier, part of my priorities around communication was ensuring that I centered the voices of those most impacted by the decisions that we make day in and day out at the school board. And that is our educators, our students, our families, and the community. And over the last 4 years, I have prioritized that communication and making a two-way communication there. So as concerns come up, I have actively engaged principals across our district. I've actively engaged teachers across our district. I've actively hosted meetings and listening sessions across our district for the last 4 years to ensure that I was reflecting the voices of those most impacted by our district. And so as a result of that, we were able to, one thing that kept coming up was the expansion of pre-K. And so we expanded pre-K access to schools across our district. One of the areas was safety and security, and we expanded access and increased improvements around there. Academic supports and teacher supports, we elevated those concerns. And so with 10 seconds left, that has been the center of my role on the school board in ensuring and seeking out feedback from everyone involved, including our Metro Council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Providing a top-tier education requires a strategic balance of specialized staffing, inclusive curriculum, and targeted funding for the students who need it most. As a representative, you will be tasked with prioritizing resources that level the playing field for all learners in our district. What is your specific plan to ensure all students have access to a high-quality education regardless of their backgrounds or abilities? And we will start with Berthena.
Thank you. So I'll talk about what has happened over the last 4 years as we have looked to prioritize and ensure support for every student across our district. First of all, when it comes to funding and allocation and budgeting, it starts at the school level first, because our principals and our teachers and our parents within that community know what's best for the kids within their schools. And so that's where budgeting starts. We have school improvement plans that include parents, teachers, as well as the administrator to begin those conversations and shape budgets that support the very students and their needs right there. Our budget, our nearly $1.4 billion budget, the majority of that budget is allocated directly to schools so that they can have those individualized supports that are needed to support student success across our district. And so as one of the things that we prioritize is we continually, year over year, month over month, reevaluate our budget, look at what our priorities are and our needs are across the community, and reallocate funds. One specific example that we were looking at was around the increased in number of students who needed special education supports. And during that time, we reallocated funds to add additional 20 positions across the district to ensure that students who needed special education supports were provided with the resources and supports they needed to succeed in that work. And so we're constantly evaluating our budget, looking at our budget, making strategic investments, and allocating resources directly to those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a second and talk about something I'm really passionate about right now. And when we talk about strategic investments, one of the things that we hear, and I'm super proud of this, that we have as a district achieved our highest graduation rate. But let's unpack that for a second. Our highest graduation rate of that 85%, the schools that have an 85% or higher graduation rate include our magnet schools, our specialty schools, 3 of our zone schools, and charter schools. We have 9 zone high schools with graduation rates that are below 85%, some as low as 61%. When we're thinking about a strategic investment in our schools, I want to see a strategic investment in our zone high schools, in each and every school, that when we look at those trends, if it's TBOS and we're level 5 as a district, let's put the supports where it's needed in our level 1 schools. Let's identify what those are. And that starts with going beyond the school improvement plan. That starts with bringing the teachers to the table, the parents to the table, bringing the students to the table, identifying what's working in their school, what's not working in their school, identifying what the needs are to get it done, and allocating those resources into our schools. I believe in our zone high schools. I am ready to see those zone high schools not only exceed our district's high of 85%, I'm ready to see them knock the state's 92% graduation rate out of the park. And if we're gonna do that, we've got to make an investment in those schools, because the needs of each of our zone high schools is very different than each other. They're all very different. And so we can't start with an overhead approach. We have to start with an in-the-school approach to get the money where it needs to be. I've seen each of our high schools have higher graduation rates. I've seen it. I've lived it. At Glencliff High School, when we were given the opportunity to strategize and be innovative within our own school, we started a non-traditional school within a school for our students where the regular school day didn't work for them. We asked our district for the resources and supports necessary to do it. For students who could come later in the day, earn advanced credits as well as the credits that needed to be to catch up. And in 1 year, the first year of implementation, our graduation rates went up 8%. That was a good investment.
Thank you. In recent years, our classrooms have seen a rapid influx of new tools, from smartphones to the integration of generative AI and daily assignments. While these resources offer personalized learning, many parents and educators worry about the potential for digital failure and the impact of foundational critical thinking skills. As a board member, how will you strike the right balance between embracing modern technology and ensuring that the human element of teaching remains the priority? And what is your philosophy on the role of AI, technology, and digital resources in the classroom?
I completely missed all of that. Can you do it one more time? I'm sorry.
I was writing something down.
In recent years,
Okay.
our classrooms have seen, you're so fine, have seen a rapid influx of new tools, from smartphones to generative AI and daily assignments. While these resources offer personalized learning, many parents and educators worry about the potential for digital failure and the impact of foundational critical thinking skills. As a board member, how will you strike the right balance between embracing modern technology and ensuring that the human element of teaching remains the priority? And what is your philosophy on the role of AI, technology, and digital resources in the classroom?
Long questions, but I got you. We'll break it down a little bit. As it relates to technology, I think technology plays an important role, and in how we educate kids. But I also think that there is a role to be played. We also have to look at it developmentally. What's appropriate for elementary students versus what's appropriate for middle school students versus what's appropriate for high school students when it comes to the introduction of technology, the use of technology, and the implementation in how students are using it within their everyday practice. And so we over time, we have had those conversations and have worked at the elementary, middle, and high school level to ensure that safety practices are in place, and looking at that across each tier. At the elementary level, so let me preface this by saying we also have to have conversations with our state as well. Starting in 3rd grade, I believe next year, students will have to take the TCAP testing via the computer. So there has to be some implementation in practice for technology use so that students are prepared to take that TCAP testing via the computer. It used to be paper and pencil, and now they're moving towards the integration of technology. So in elementary schools, it is very important for that foundational writing is super important, and writing helps to build the foundational skills that students need in literacy as well as in math. As students are moving towards middle school, an increase of technology is super important when it comes to storytelling, integration, and leading into the academies. As we move into high school, depending on the academy that students are involved in, we'll take different levels of integration within that technology that prepares them for college, career, and life. As far as AI is concerned, we have just introduced a pilot program within Metro Nashville public schools with AI connected to literacy and storytelling to help build the curriculum around how we are improving literacy outcomes and foundational literacy across our schools, and that's starting at the middle school level. So there is space for AI to come here looking strategically on how to implement that in a way that's developmentally appropriate and safe for students to use and integrate. Thank you.
Talk closer.
Yep.
Okay. That make me think it's karaoke or something. AI. Anybody used AI today in some aspect of your life? I did it countless ways today. All right, it's integrated in everything that we're doing now. And what I think is the most critical thing that we can do in our schools is, one, prepare educators for the use of AI, and then to teach those deep-rooted skills, critical thinking, problem solving. To use AI, you have to have those critical skills to use it correctly. You have to know what to ask. You have to know how to direct. You need those skills. So those are taught in our classroom. And then when you present it into the technology or the use of AI, you can do it in such a way that is meaningful and it's productive and doesn't lead us down the wrong path, but in a direction that helps so many excel in our careers and in our life. Because we don't use AI just in career, we're using it in life on a daily basis. But here's the thing, Metro did come up with a policy for professional development for our educators on the use of AI. They integrated that last year. And that policy was based on having professional development that is available. And I did confirm just this past week that training right now is optional. And if we want to stand with and run ahead of our peers throughout the state and the country for our students' preparedness, we've got to get ahead of them. And it starts with our comfortability, our ability to use it and to teach it responsibly in the classroom. We've got to train our educators. We've got to create a level where they are comfortable and knowledgeable and feel safe in utilizing themselves so that they can teach it in a responsible and in a meaningful way. I would love to see at our high school level, when we think about ready graduates, one of the things that identifies as a ready graduate is that students earned an EPSO. You'll hear those acronyms. It's an early post-secondary opportunity or a certification. I'd like for us to see more certifications that are aligned with AI throughout each of our career pathways in our district. I think that's a great way for us to help elevate opportunities for students to be ready graduates when that is one of our struggles, with approximately 20 of our students graduating now as ready graduates. We've got some great work ahead of us that we can do.
Thank you. Berthena segued us perfectly into the next couple of questions about testing. This one's a mouthful. The question's not that long, I promise. For several years, Tennessee's third grade retention law has required that students who do not score proficient on the TCAP be retained unless they meet specific state-defined intervention pathways. However, we're currently seeing a shift in this conversation with legislation such as House Bill 1995 that would move the policy away from a strict state mandate towards greater local discretion in promotion decisions. What is your perspective on the role of standardized testing alongside classroom instruction, and how would you ensure that a single test score does not outweigh a full year of teacher-led evaluation?
Man,
From your mouth to God's ears. This is a conversation that we are constantly having. So a couple of things that I want to distinguish between, and that is academic growth and proficiency that we are seeing. One of the things that we have been proud of over the last 4 years is the amount of growth that we are seeing students have year over year. So proficiency tells you, as we walk in the door, this is where your student is. They are either at proficiency, below proficiency, or above proficiency, and that means at grade level. It's loosely translated, very loosely translated, at grade level. And so what growth does, it shows us from 1 year to the next, are students moving? If students are below, are they moving towards proficiency? If they are proficient, are they moving towards advanced? And if they are advanced, are we continuing to grow them beyond that? Okay, and that's what growth tells you. A level 3, when it comes to growth, says that we have moved the kids sufficiently from 1 year to the next. A level 4 says that we have gone above and beyond that to move students from one year to the next. And a level 5 says we have our greatest amount of growth from one year to the next. That means that we are moving kids at a faster rate year over year, right? And at the rate that we're going with Metro Nashville Public Schools being a level 5, take in mind, we have never done this in the history of Metro Nashville Public Schools. So to have it 4 years in a row, year over year, is historic for our district, for our students, for our families, for everyone involved. And so when we look at that criteria around how we're moving students from growth and we're accelerating it, I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, we will exceed what the state proficiency levels are, because we are outpacing the state in how we are moving students across our district. That's why we are getting national recognitions around the work that we are doing to advance. And so if we are trying to move a student from below proficiency to proficiency, this is what we want to see. And over the last 4 years, we are seeing more and more students meet the grade level expectation, that they are meet and exceed the grade level expectation that we are wanting to see for them. And so we want to continue that work, build on top of that work, and advance that across our entire district. Thank you.
I'm used to giving it off. Sorry.
Any great test takers in the crowd? Not a few? Good, good. I'm not one of them. I wish I was, and kudos to anyone it is. So we put so much on testing. So much. That one day when you get up, and then did you sleep enough? Did you have enough rest? Did you come in ready? Was the temperature right in the room? And so whereas I appreciate testing, I believe that there are so many indicators of student success. I'm weary of always putting our eggs in one basket. That went well with Easter right around the corner, right? But we use TBOS, so we think about growth. And so that level 3, as Dr. B said, is being on track, or you're on track. I want to talk about District 4. All right, here in District 4, we've got 16 schools. I'm not including Stripe because it is closing this year, okay? 16 schools. Of those, four of them are level 5. All right, 12 of them are at least a level 3. Are at least a 4 or below. 6 of our schools in District 4 are below 3. We're not even on track. And what's really heavy for me as a parent, when I think about our district and we're really proud of that level 5, I'm going, man, I want that too. I want that too. Because right now, when I look at the trajectory for my students in their zone school, their middle school is a level 1. Their school actually made the news last week as being a grade F for the last 2 years. Their high school is a level 1. It's not to say these schools aren't awesome. They are. We've got a lot of value in the test. There are great things happening at our schools. We've got to identify how do we support through the instruction, make sure they're not being repetitive through our high dosage tutoring, and through in all of our work, what we're doing is leading those students through that growth. Our schools have the capacity. We put a lot of weight on our teachers for them to teach for the test. But you know when they're their best is when they're teaching what they do the best. And when we're integrating the standards. I've seen it in McGavin High School where as academy principal, we led our school through one of the lowest achievements, our academy through the lowest achievement to the second highest achievement. And we did that through being intentional in our classroom, strategizing how we saw those strategies taught across room to room, and so that it touched our students and it added value. I'm out of time.
Thank you. We're going to continue talking about testing, and I do think we got a little off, so we're going to start with Jenny on this one.
Okay, sure.
While the state monitors high-stakes TCAP scores, many educators argue that student growth, measuring how much a child learns in a year regardless of their starting point, is a more accurate reflection of school health. The MNPS Research and Assessment Department currently tracks both absolute proficiency and growth as part of their signature initiatives. What are the top 2 metrics you would use to judge whether our schools are improving, and what actions would you take if those metrics stagnate or decline? Jenny,
Sorry, I was digesting, was taking it all in.
digest away.
To make sure I understand you correctly, you stated what the 2 metrics were, what those would be,
Yes.
if I had to call on it.
Yes, your top 2 metrics and what you would do if they were declining or not improving.
Okay. Well, I'll run out of time, so I'm gonna start with what do we do when we're declining? All right, when we are declining, you'll hear me say this over and over again. All right, we hear the words of resources and supports. I want a plan, okay? When I'm thinking about my kids and I'm thinking about our students throughout the district, I want to know what those resources and supports are. So what I want to see is transparency. I want to see everyone who has a voice to have a voice at the table, whether that is from our upper leadership, to our families, to our students, to our teachers. And I want us to come up with what is the issue, how we're going to resolve it, what are those actionables, when are we going to do it, and what are we investing in that improvement. And I want to have a baseline that's shared with our community so that our community knows where we are, where we're going along the entire way. I need more than just resources and supports as the line. That's how I fix it. When we're thinking about metrics, one of the biggest metrics, if you look at student success, is actually a really strong school culture. Some of our most achieving schools are those where the culture and climate is exceptionally high. Create a positive environment where students are excited to come to school. Guess what? Your academics go up, your attendance goes up, your teacher retention is higher. Look through your data. School culture and climate is one of the driving forces of success in the school. So that will always be a top indicator for me. The other one is, I do believe in looking at growth. I think it is a good indicator. We need to look at so you need a starting point and where you went from that. That's very longitudinal, and I believe in that. So I think that we've got to continue to do that. I'm interested in seeing what's next. From the state level, we're always kind of shifting up. What is that measure of success? And it changes from time to time, and every time you change it, the metrics and the way that it's scored, it changes our outlook on it. So I do think it's important to look at growth. All right, we've got to look at growth not only from the academic standpoint, you've got to look at it through all your core areas, but we've also got to look at it from a cultural point. And I also want to look at the overall culture and climate of the school. It's one of the driving forces in the school.
Can you repeat that question?
Of course I can. What are the top 2 metrics you would use to judge whether our schools are improving, and what actions would you take if those metrics stagnate or decline?
So that is a long conversation, and not for 2 minutes? 2.5 minutes. It will take longer than that to do a deep dive on data. But if we're looking at 2 specific measures, one thing we're going to look at is growth and proficiency. Growth is showing us how students are moving year over year, and proficiency is how they're reaching that goal. So those are the 2 areas. One way that we kind of monitor that is through benchmark testing and progress monitoring throughout the year, so that we can get the necessary interventions in place to support students, not at the end of the year, but throughout the process. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting the students and meeting their needs when they need it, and advancing them in that way. One of the critical points for me also, when we are, if we're having stagnant, did you say stagnant or declining data? One of the driving factors that we look at is the root causes. What is causing us to have stagnant data or decline in data across our schools? So we are looking at that and adding additional supports where necessary to support teachers. That could be teacher development, professional development. That could be resources that are needed with high dosage tutoring. It could be wraparound supports that are needed for students. If students haven't eaten, if they're hungry, they're not going to learn. And so handling those wraparound supports that are needed for students. Another thing that we have done this year, or over the last 4 years, is leadership. School leadership is the determining factor for climate and culture and how the learning environment takes place within our schools. And we have had to make some difficult transitions within our schools. Jenny alluded to one of our schools that's a level 1 that was just out. We had a leadership transition that had to take place in that school. And oftentimes we really like our leaders, but ultimately our goal within schools and our role as school board members, as teachers, as principals is to ensure student success. And so oftentimes we have to make those hard decisions sometimes to make those transitions. So if we look at it comprehensively, there's a lot of factors that are in place that we implement and put in place to help drive the needle to really support student success in the end. Thank you.
Okay, I think you both already touched on budget a little bit, but we're gonna ask more specifically. Voters in District 4 want to ensure that every dollar spent by MNPS is directly improving student outcomes. In an era of high inflation and shifting state funding models, we need a clear sense of your fiscal priorities. Which programs do you consider essential to protect? Where would you look to find efficiencies in the budget? And what, if anything, would you prioritize differently, if elected versus the current approach? So, a bit of a three-part question.
Oh, 2 minutes is not enough.
Before you get started, can you give us those 3 questions again?
That's great.
Which programs do you consider essential to protect? Where would you look to find efficiencies in the budget? And what, if anything, would you prioritize differently if elected versus the current approach?
Okay, number 1, our awesome staff. That is our number 1 asset. Number 1 asset is our awesome staff. The number 2 most, actually equally most important thing we can provide is a safe school. So when I think about prioritizing, I believe that we've got to prioritize into our staff, whether that is our certified teachers or our support staff, anyone who is helping our children and family. We've got to make the proper investment in them. And so I will always advocate for fair pay and compensation and continuing to help our educators to thrive in a place that is becoming more expensive to live. We also have to ensure we have safe schools. Our safe schools. And safe schools is not only exclusive to just safety from like an intruder, but also from an infrastructure standpoint. That's also from a social emotional standpoint. We've got to make a great investment. You cannot be academically successful if you do not have your educators there and you don't have a safe space to learn. And so I will always advocate for those. Where are some places where I would consider cutting? I would start with investments that we have that do not show a return on investment. If we are spending money and it's not touching our students and educators, then it's not a good investment. And we have programs right now that we are implementing in which our only measure of success is participation. Participation is not a measure of achievement. And so those are the areas I'd start with. I would like for us to do a comprehensive deep dive into all the programs and interventions that we offer and figure out which ones are working, which ones are not, abandon those or not, and invest heavily in those that are. And when I'm thinking about from a structure standpoint, our schools want to feel it. Our educators want to feel those dollars in the classroom. Our families want to feel those dollars in the classroom. We're seeing too much spent up here. And when we see a lot of money spent up here, it takes away our trust here. Right now, our leadership is almost twice as big as it was 6 years ago. We went from 5 chiefs to 9 chiefs, and we also have someone who used to be a chief that's now on a contract, earning over $200,000 a year. We've got to be mindful where that spending is. It needs to be felt in our classrooms. And when our teachers are asking for, a family just told me last week, well, we think this would be an awesome thing at our school, but there's not enough money. We always tend to find the money. We need to find it for our schools.
make sure I got it right, programs, efficiency, prioritization. So over the last 4 years, coming out of, we had deadly tornadoes as well as COVID-19 pandemics. There were some things that, and school, and students learning at home. And so there was some things that we felt were priorities for students and teacher success across our district. One was prioritizing compensation, because many of our teachers, even though we're the highest paid teachers in the state, cannot afford to live in Nashville today, and staff cannot afford to live in Nashville. So compensation is the #1 priority for us. Another investment was around academic supports. We were looking at learning loss happening across our district because different learners learn different ways, and some of them didn't learn well over a computer. And so we prioritized ensuring, one, that every student had a textbook, because they didn't have textbooks prior to this. So ensuring that every student had a textbook and not just a classroom set was a priority right for us, and high quality curriculum. Another area was around high dosage tutoring and academic supports that were needed to support the learning gaps that had occurred with students. Another priority was around social, emotional, and mental well-being. Our students and our staff were struggling across our district, and we wanted to prioritize supports around that. And then thirdly, let's see, wait, I hit all three. Oh, and then wraparound supports. Our families across, the need is great. Our homeless population within Metro Nashville Public Schools has increased significantly since the pandemic. And it goes back to inflation and the cost of living right here in the city. And so wraparound supports were needed for families across there. Over the last 4 years, we have looked at programs that have worked, and we have kept those and prioritized those. We have also made cuts on programs that were no longer beneficial for us that we needed throughout that process. And we continue to do that year over year. And so if we're looking at our budget this year, we have cut about $21 million in efficiencies to prioritize and build on the programs that are important for us across the district.
Thank you. School system leadership is evaluated across a range of factors, including student outcomes, operational performance, and public trust. In MNPS, recent evaluations have noted strengths in areas like graduation rates, alongside ongoing public scrutiny around issues such as legal settlements and district oversight. This is a two-parter question. How should the board assess the director of schools' performance in a way that balances academic progress with operational and ethical accountability? And number two, what specific metrics or outcomes would guide your decision to continue or change leadership? And we will start with Berthena.
Great.
Okay, so just with these two parts, y'all killing us with these two parts here. I know, like, can y'all break them down and just add more questions instead of the two parts? So one is around, I gotta write it down, I'm sorry.
You're fine. How should the board assess the director of schools' performance in a way that balances academic progress with operational and ethical accountability? And then number two is what specific metrics or outcomes would guide your decision to either continue or change leadership?
Woo. 2.5 minutes, right?
You ready?
All righty, here we go. It's a longer conversation, but we do an evaluation on our superintendent of schools. That that is one of our major jobs as a school board member. We have one employee, and our job is to hire and evaluate the superintendent of schools. Our superintendent of schools is evaluated 4 times a year, and that is 4 formative assessments throughout the year, with a mid-year public evaluation and an end-of-the-year public evaluation. Part of the metrics that we use on her evaluation is around academic outcomes for our district. Our priority as a school system is to ensure that we are preparing students for college, career, and life, and providing high-quality programming throughout our schools, from the way we hire principals, to the way we hire teachers, to the way we provide wraparound supports, and all of those things to drive the needle. All 9 of our board members evaluate her through those processes. We get constant updates. We get weekly updates from Dr. Battle about what has occurred during the week. We get monthly updates about what is occurring throughout the month. We have quarterly updates from her that are rooted in data, academic data, on how students are performing and what is happening. There is a constant 2-way communication between the director of schools and what's happening in schools every single day. That does not include the amount of times as a board member that I hear constituent concerns, and I am bringing those back to Dr. Battle to talk about accountability measures as it relates to that and how we can support, advise, and things like that. And so her 360 evaluation includes all of those components, including the feedback that we receive. I told you in 30 seconds we're not going to be able to do it. It is a comprehensive evaluation process, and if we look at our evaluation process compared to superintendents just across our state, they only evaluate their superintendent 1 time a year. We do it very comprehensively. So that is the measure that we look at throughout the year, and we adjust accordingly because there are no gotcha moments. We want to ensure continuous improvement. Yeah, I didn't even hit the second part.
I'm gonna get to it again.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Do we finish, or you want us to wait?
If you'd like to say it's been a second, we're gonna wrap up soon, so.
So go ahead and continue. Perfect. So yes, there has been a lot of conversation, specifically here in District 4, around things like the lawsuit, the $6.5 million lawsuit, bathroom renovations, as well as some other settlements that have happened within our district, right? And so when it comes to any type of lawsuit within our district, Tennessee law requires us to have conversations in connection with our legal attorneys, Metro Legal. If you're on the Metro Council, you guys kind of understand how that works. When we are talking about employees, for the safety and security and protection of our employees, whether they're in a lawsuit or not, when it comes to students and all of those things, those are done in executive session. However, the votes that we take based on the facts and the information that we have are always done publicly. So oftentimes, if it is an employee that we're discussing, if it's a student that we're discussing, you are not going to hear those conversations on the board floor. That is not a matter of lack of transparency. That is what Tennessee law requires us, school system, to be able to do in order to make those decisions. However, all votes have to be taken on the board floor as it relates to that. And so in looking at all of those things, the other thing that we look at as it relates to the superintendent is her role in it, if there's any disciplinary adjustments that need to be made according to that, if there's any district level adjustments that need to be made related to those decisions, those are what we are also looking at throughout all of these different things. And so far, even with everything that we have discussed, There has been no situation from legal advice and from what we look at as far as following the law and the practices that would dictate us to, at this time, discipline, remove our director of schools. She is doing exactly what we're asking. She is moving the needle for students across our district, and we will keep our focus on making sure that those things continue to happen. Thank you.
No, sorry.
Sorry.
It's okay. I spent a lot of years doing evaluations. And so I've been that teacher that has been evaluated, I've been that director who's been evaluated, but I've also done a lot of evaluations. And it's a pretty lengthy training process to become an evaluator. But the process that we use when we're evaluating any of our employees is pretty similar to what you see when we're evaluating the superintendent. And as we go through, we do use a tool that's a measure, and we look at anything from professionalism to academic outcomes to culture. Those are all things that come up in those evaluation tools. And so when we go through them, one of the big things at the end of those evaluation tools is we're always identifying opportunities for growth. We should always be growing. All right, and we look at that growth, and then the next time we have that visit, guess what we do? We follow up on that growth. Now, at any point, if we're not meeting, if I have an employee who's not meeting those expectations through the evaluation, we may move into what's called a plan of assistance. And through that plan of assistance, I'm gonna outline what are my expectations, what do we wanna see in the timeline that we wanna do it. So what I would like to see as a board member is I would like for us to be more transparent about what is our growth expectations. So just as we do with our educators, what are our growth expectations for our superintendent? I believe to communicate that with the community itself knows that we're paying attention, all right? And knows that we're involved and we're always setting a higher bar. So I would like for us to see that into motion. The other thing is that if we have areas that our expectations are not being met, as a board we set the vision for the school district, if they're not being met, then what are those specific outcomes that we want to see happen and when? And we need to communicate that. Whereas we may not communicate the specifics of each phase of the evaluation, let's go ahead and communicate what are our expectations for growth, and when we see those areas of improvement, what's the plan, and when do we want to see it? In my eyes, that's transparency.
Thank you. We're gonna do 2 more questions before we wrap this up.
Oh, that was fun.
Two more times.
It's okay.
Okay, these are a little darker.
Darker? Okay.
3 years ago, the tragedy at the Covenant School fundamentally changed the conversation around school safety in Nashville, leading to a $140 million recurring state grant program to fund school resource officers in public schools. As we look at the current presence of armed officers in our school's daily learning environment, some see it as a necessary shield, while others worry about the impact on school culture. What is your personal philosophy on the role of SROs in our school, and do you believe they are the most effective way to protect our children today? And we will start with Jenny.
Okay. I believe that SROs are a piece of us providing safety in our schools. And we've made some adjustments to provide safer schools. So I've actually always worked in a school that had an SRO. They actually saved me one time from a very, 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 what could have been a very bad situation, so I'm grateful for our SROs. I actually would like to see more SROs at our elementary level, the investment of paying full-time officers overtime pay to be present as SROs around our elementary schools. I think what that lacks is the relationship piece. So from the middle and high school piece, you build that relationship with our SROs, they become a really big piece of the culture. And that's the lens that I look at it through. We've made other adjustments for safer schools within our buildings, and safer schools is also just that investment in the mental health. But I'm gonna go to Covenant Because when we think about safer schools, one of the things we did is we created, I'll call it a corridor because it seems easier. When you go into the front door of a school, there's a section that's blocked off by another section of doors, and that's to create a safer space. I went to a training recently. I was invited to come out. Well, a group was providing some active intruder training and school safety training. They said you could come out and learn from us. I watched the video of the intruder come into Covenant. I watched that individual go through the first door, and guess what they encountered afterwards? A second door. And guess what they did? They went through it too. So that can't be our only measure. All right, so we've got our SROs. We create safer facilities. I'm very proud of MNPS for some of the procedures that they put in place for our schools to secure their buildings. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to buildings in our past and walked up to doors and they've been propped open. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. But I've really seen more secure buildings, and I think a lot of that is attributed to those strong procedures that have been put in place. Other aspects of safety that we've got to consider is training. So I know this, with before and after school programs, one of my requirements was I required any provider that was providing services to our children in our schools after school had to provide a crisis management plan that I built alongside support of the police department and with the state, and that they went through an active intruder training. It was required. We also did that for our teachers. We're not continuing to do that. We have about 15% of our educators that are leaving each year. That means new educators are coming in. We've got to continuously train on how to secure our buildings. And I'm so out of time. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Try that question one more time.
You can't do it in 2 minutes.
Absolutely. What is your personal philosophy on the role of SROs in our school? And do you believe that they are the most effective way to protect our children?
I'll start by saying I wish we didn't have to have them. I think that we have policies across our state that is not prioritizing children. And we need to do more across our communities as it relates to state policies, federal policies, related to access and harm. But we are in a situation now where we have to have them. And so one of our approaches is balancing proactive measures that will provide safety and security for students in school, right? And I agree with Jenny in saying that we have done a robust job over the last 4 years in continuing to add safety features within our school. It has been a priority. It has been a major investment from our Metro Council and our mayor's office to ensure that we have safe schools for families. The other measures around social, emotional, and mental health support, as well as wraparound support resources that we have prioritized and invested. I mentioned earlier about our advocacy centers and our peace centers that work to teach students and support students in regulating behavior and hard feelings and conflict resolution and all of those skills. So we are doing a combination of social, emotional, and mental health, as well as safety infrastructure features that happen. We're also providing that support to teachers as well. Teachers do receive active shooter training. They do have crisis management plans. They have relocation plans. All of those plans are in place. They are required by law for us to have them in place within our schools. And so we are doing those safety measures. I just unfortunately wish that we weren't in a situation where they would have to be required. I grew up a long time ago. I'm only 25 though, I'm stick with that. All right, but I grew up a long time ago where we didn't have to worry about arming our schools. We didn't have to worry about locking down our schools. Kids could just be normal, right? And now we're in a situation, moving fast forward, where schools are becoming harder and harder because of the safety practices we're having to implement because of societal issues that are happening around us. And I am a firm believer of what happens in our community boils up into our schools. Kids don't get guns in school. they get guns in the community and they bring them into schools. So what are we doing to reduce the access for them to be able to receive them in the first place? How are we addressing the issues outside in the community where they don't feel safe and they feel like they have to bring it into school to address those issues? We need to address root causes. What we're doing is handling the issue, but not handling the root causes that are rolling up into our communities. And I think as a community, that needs to be our primary focus. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna do one more question and then have a quick little closing remarks from both of you. For anyone that doesn't know about this legislation, buckle up. For the candidates, this is a two-parter. So you know, get your pen ready. This legislative session, Tennessee lawmakers have advanced House Bill 793 and Senate Bill 836, which originally would have allowed public schools to deny enrollment to undocumented students or charge tuition. It was later amended to require schools to verify students' immigration status and report data to the state. Do you believe the district should have the authority to deny enrollment or charge tuition to these students? Question one. And how do you view proposals requiring faculty and staff to collect and report immigration data? Kind of three questions, sorry. And what impact do you believe that would have on student safety, attendance, and trust between families and their schools if you're reporting this data? You're trying to make us cry over here, huh? Yeah, I told you the last two were rough.
Yeah, so I opened up with, I taught at Glencliff High School, and so I started working for Metro in 2003, and I taught at Glencliff until 2010. We were the most diverse school in the state at the time. We had 40 different spoken languages in our school. It was awesome. That's not the most professional word, I'm gonna use it though. It was awesome. Our diversity really was our strength. But we had a lot of challenges. For many of our families, we're undocumented. And let me tell you, as a classroom teacher who is really trying to keep our students motivated and excited about graduating when the opportunities after they graduate are so small. So you're already fighting that uphill battle. But I want to give you an example of something. We did a lot of work around engaging our family to build trust in our families. We were on a movement to increase our culture, to create a safer environment for all of our students, and to increase our graduation rates. We were on one. We were hosting an event one night. I'll never forget this. I'm standing outside with the executive principal. There was a basketball game that night, and it was a language class that we were teaching. And so we saw families pulling in, and as they got to the front, they slowed down, and then they drove off. And they did it again. I'd see another car pull in, slow down, and then they would drive off. We couldn't figure out what it was. Because of the basketball game, there was an SRO officer there. And there was someone working on extra duty, and they had their police vehicle out front, and they had the sirens on, they had the lights on. Well, that infringed on the sense of safety for our families. They didn't feel safe to come into our school that day. It felt like a gotcha. And our families left. And it took us another year to rebuild trust for so many of families that we lost in a night. With this legislation that's coming down, it will destroy the culture and the sense of safety for so many of our students and our families in our school. You will see a great decline in attendance. And if you don't believe me, I've lived it. I know exactly what it looks like. We will have families who do not trust the process of bringing their kids to school. So now we have students who are not even receiving an education, and families that may want to look at like childcare that's private, but that doesn't exist, and look how expensive it is. And you know what happens when we don't provide opportunity? When you don't provide opportunity for your families to feel part of the family of your school, then they're going to go elsewhere. They're going to stay out. And when you think about our students, if we don't provide an opportunity for them to be successful and to feel safe, if they can't go out into our country and our city and work, then they're going to find other ways for survival. And we're not doing anyone any favors. The residual impact of this legislation, it doesn't just affect schools. We'll feel it throughout our entire state.
Going back to the question.
Are we on? The complete answer is no. Federal law is clear. Public schools, students, regardless of documentation status, have the right to attend public schools, period. And our job is to educate them. And so we are educators, not enforcement officers. We're just not. Our job is to create a safe and welcoming environment for every child to be able to learn and grow and contribute to society. That is our role, that is our goal. And so no, I'm not in support of tracking students. No, I'm not in support of charging students to attend school. We cannot control adult parents' decisions, and we're targeting children. Children should be off limits in these discussions. These are federal policies that are happening at the state level that shouldn't be occurring at the state level related to that. So my hard answer is absolutely not. We shouldn't be doing that. And we have seen the impact. We've seen ICE officers in Nolensville, in Madison, and across our city. We have seen families, whether documented or undocumented, impacted by these decisions. We have a large immigrant population in Nashville who are citizens that are being targeted. And so when we look at the collateral impact of targeting, of bias and profiling, and what it is doing to disrupt and hurt families, it's catastrophic. And so families are scared to go to school, they're scared to shop in the grocery store, they're scared to walk down the street for fear of being targeted. I have literally had, we have 2 school board members that sit on our school board. And when students came in to interview for the school board position, they had their papers with them. Their birth certificates, their documents that shows that they are legally supposed to be here. This is what we're creating when we do policies like that that truly impact kids. I am an African American, born and raised Muslim person here, and the amount of profiling I get, the amount of attacks I get, the amount of death threats that I get from people right here in this community is alarming. And so no, I have been a victim of it, and I was born and raised right here. Where am I gonna go back home to? Nashville is my home. And so I can't imagine the things that I face as an American citizen, that people who came here for a better life, went through the process illegally to get here, or didn't, and what they're going through. And so when we talk about children, our job as a school system is to educate children and provide a high quality education so that they can be productive citizens in our community. That's where I am. And until that federal law changes, that's where we're gonna stick with, and that's what we're gonna do as a school system. We can't get involved in the politics of what's going on when it impacts kids. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna end on a positive note. 2 minutes for a little closing question. We just want you to share what makes you the most proud of our school, our local schools today, and why you are the person to take on the responsibility to ensure the schools continue to help students thrive. So we will start with Berthena. You still have 2 minutes.
I think I can do this one in 2 minutes. What what can I contribute? I am proud of what we've done over the last 4 years. We have been crystal clear about our goals for the district. And that is to ensure that we are improving outcomes for students across our district and supporting and investing in the people who make it happen day in and day out. So I am proud of that. I am proud in how we approach it. I am proud in what we are doing every single day. And I think for me, being reelected to the school board is building on top of those positive things. I love the fact that Jenny has a beautiful baby boy, right, at Stanford Montessori. That was through the opportunity of our expanded pre-K access, right? And so we are very much, right here in District 4, doing great things. When I say we have 3 principals right here in this district, we have Simon Youth Administrator of the Year for the work he is doing at the Academy of Opry Mill. We have both MNPS School Principal of the Year and the National Association for the Education of Elementary and Middle School Principals recognition. We have another principal at DuPont Tyler, at DuPont Hadley. That principal was appointed as president of the National Association for Elementary and School Principals. We have some phenomenal principals here. The schools that were struggling with performance, we have since changed leadership. And when I say Two Rivers was a level 1 school and went from a level 1 to a level 5 in 1 year, we are focused on ensuring that we are doing what we need to do for students, families, and our community, and again, supporting the teachers and staff who make it happen every day. So I'm proud of that work, and we're gonna continue to build upon that for the next 4 years and continue that forward trajectory. And I don't think this is a time to stop. I think it's a time to continue and build upon the positive things that were happening, adjust where necessary, and continue that forward momentum. Thank you.
All right. What was the first part?
Well,
I love our schools.
Yes, you got it.
I love our schools. I grew up in our schools. I have attended Lakeview Elementary, went to Mountain View Elementary for 4th grade, and Cameron Middle School for 5th through 8th before going to McGavick. I'm a 2nd generation graduate of Metro Schools and McGavick High School. I've always had a wild passion for our schools, and one of the things I love about the most is that every one of our schools has its own story. You know, the history in the school, the engagement of the families, what they've been through, the wins, the struggles that they've overcome. Everyone has its own school story. And if you go into any of our schools, you'll see this firsthand. You know, so I encourage anyone, if you have an opportunity to go to a school other than just your child's school, please do. There's a lot of great things happening out there, and that's what I get really excited about. What I really love to see is our schools is when they're collaborating with one another. When our middle school students are exploring our high schools, and we see our high school students at the elementary schools, and that's when it's an entire community. When the community wraps its arms around it and become partners with our schools. So we're no longer putting all the pressure just on the paid employees of the school, but it's the entire community investing in our schools. That's what I love about our schools. What I have to bring to the table is I understand our schools. I understand them inside and out. I know what it's like to be the student. You know, and at the time in which I graduated McGavick High School, we had over 3,000 students. We also went through some really tough experiences in the Donelson community during those mid and late 90s that were really hard on all of our high schools, especially McGavick. I know what it's like to be the teacher. I know what it's like to be teaching in your content area. I know what it's like to be teaching on a waiver for the first 2 years because you struggle with testing. I know what it's like to work a couple of jobs and to have roommates to get by. But I also know what it's like to have a team of teachers that you're working alongside with. And when you work together, the work that you can do. And when your teachers get along together and we support our students, what we can do, what we can elevate. I know what it's like to be an administrator. I know what it's like to have a funnel of initiatives coming down to you from a district level to have implemented in your school, and how to do that in a strategic way to avoid burning out your teachers, but also to meet our district goals. And I know what it's like to be a district leader. I know what it's like to work around the politics. Thank you. What it is to work around the politics. I understand what it's like to work around the communication struggles from external to internal partners. I've seen it all. So I know how to look through the lens. When you look at one of my greatest strengths, we were all certified strength finders back in the day when I was at Metro. My greatest strength is I'm strategic. So I am strategic. I'm a strategic partner. I believe in looking at everything through a lens on how we can invest well, efficiently, and successfully. And secondly, I'm very disciplined. When I make a commitment to do something, I'm going to see it through. And third is I'm a believer. And I have strong beliefs, and I have very strong beliefs, and I'm very passionate about our schools. I'm super excited for the next 16 years for my kiddos to be in our schools.
Thank you both so much for listening to us. Berthena, want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out real quick. This Susan Floyd back here in the back. If you could stand up so everybody can see you. This is the example of Susan Floyd has been a teacher at Andrew Jackson for 40 years. She is the example and the epitome of dedication and the work that she does day in, day out to ensure our students feel seen, supported, and valued every day. And so that's an example of what I wanted to see. And I just had to highlight it because when you hit 40 years, she's 40 years this year. And so I just want to celebrate that anniversary publicly with.
Well, and former refounding member of Donelson Hermitage Neighborhood Association.
Oh, founding member, okay.
Vice president and president.
She's been around for a long time, y'all. But I just wanted to highlight her and uplift her and celebrate her together.
Well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Let's give our candidates one more round of applause. I hope that you found this to be informative. I hope you found that our questions, although lengthy, were very nuanced and policy oriented.
They were
And
dissertations.
oh yeah, and but we appreciate you coming out. And who in here feels like they know more about the MNPS school system leaving out of here than they did coming in? So I know that I certainly do. And we really appreciate you coming out. It means a whole lot. Stay around for a few minutes if you'd like. We've got elected officials here. We've got candidates here. Make sure to meet them. We've got Jeff Eastlick here. He's council member for District 11. We've got Aaron Evans here, Council District 12. Russ Bradford, Council District 13. And Jordan Huffman, Council District 14. We also have, I think, are there any candidates? I see Jody Cochran, who is running for Senate District 17, I believe. That's Wilson County and this part of Davidson County. And we also have
Cheryl May, District 6 school board member.
Cheryl May is running for District 6 school board. So
Re-election.
Re-election. All right, so we greatly appreciate you guys coming out as well. Stick around, try to meet someone that you don't know. That's what the DHNA is all about. And if there's nothing else from anyone, we greatly appreciate it. Have a safe drive home and have a good Easter weekend.